thought it would be a good idea to bring together an august panel of Conservatives of different hues. Tim Montgomerie, former advisor to Boris Johnson, founding editor of Conservative Home, of course, and Salma Shah, political commentator now, but was special advisor to Sajid Javid when he was Home Secretary and all the other jobs that he did
lots of
when
jobs.
he was there. Salma, is this campaign recoverable for Sunak?
I think right from the beginning, if I'm perfectly honest, I think this was going to be a damage limitation exercise. And I think this week's events have made that worse and harder. Is it recoverable? I mean, what does a recovery look like? I think this is just something that they're going to have to continue through and try and make the best of. I don't think there's if I was advising them right now, what is the intervention that you would make that would turn it round?
What would it be? What can you do?
Well, I mean, that's the point. I mean, there's rumours circulating about a potential replacement of the leader, which you actually can't do because there's no parliamentary party to be able to action that. But even then, that's sort of a really dramatic intervention for the way that people are feeling. But actually, funnily enough, Tim put a tweet out yesterday that I thought was interesting about looking at particular individual Tory MPs who are great public servants and, putting some backing behind them and saying, actually, don't punish them for what's happening centrally. And that might be a route to do some damage control. But this is, I think it's fair to say, and this is difficult for me to say because I am a Tory voter, it's been a pretty catastrophic week for the campaign.
Tim? Do you think it's recoverable? What do you think of what's happened this week?
It's extraordinary. We're watching history. This is an amazing election. And I think the Conservative Party is probably heading for its worst defeat by some time. The opinion polls have been so consistent. And I think we think that can't happen, can it? The Tories under 100 seats. But that was before Friday's extraordinary gaffe. For a party that depends on older patriotic voters to get something like that wrong. I honestly can't explain it. Rishi Sunak is not my favourite Tory leader ever, but he's a decent man, he's a good man, he's in public service for the right reason. But there just seems to be a level of dysfunctionality in the Conservative Party at the moment that is off the scale from a party that used to be the world's most successful. And the only thing I think we've got left in the locker, and apparently the evidence that of polling internally as it does move the dial a bit, is voters do not want to unintentionally give Keir Starmer a super majority. That's the only message I think that will save a few Tory MPs now.
Is that what you run on now? You basically just say keep the majority down? Implicitly you say that?
Well, I think there's two things, because it's the big majority for Keir Starmer, but also sort of reform sort of chewing at the right and saying, actually, voting reform gives Starmer that majority, but also let's try and bring the right together at some point. But then the question inevitably becomes, would you accept Farage into the Conservative Party? So there is kind of tension there, but there are still, they're still fighting on two sides. So it's kind of trying to appropriate a bit of centrism and then also trying to defend yourself against reform.
I mean, Farage is dominating again, isn't he? I mean, he's basically bringing down his...
Can I actually... on Friday, I thought that he was quite...
In the debate?
I thought the debate was quite damp for him. Because
he got his clips, though, didn't he?
He got his clips.
He's good at that, yeah.
He got his clips, but actually, if you were watching it, I don't think that he really shone in the way that one expected him to, because it was Farage.
Tim, how do you deal with Farage?
It's too late now.
Too late?
I heard him on, was it Tuesday when he made his announcement?
Monday, I think, yeah.
Monday, yeah.
Ages ago.
It's been a long week and I'm certainly feeling it. And, I know his faults and his downsides, but there's something about his authenticity. He talks the language that many Conservatives feel they don't hear anymore from their own party. And the only really good thing that came from Rishi Sunak's decision to call the early unexpected election was, my understanding was that Tory HQ knew that reform weren't really ready. And if Farage hadn't run, which was what we thought in those first few days, Tory HQ thought there may be 30 MPs saved by that. And so him entering the fray is transformational, and we can't do anything about it, really.
We go back to that question, is there anything that he can do, and what would you be advising him to do now? Well, come on, earn your money.
Can I jump in?
In 10
he doesn't
seconds, go
take
on.
advice. That's the problem. He doesn't take advice. He is a details person and a brilliant details person, but he should never have been in politics, and he should have known that and surrounded himself with people with political judgment. But
He should never have been in
doesn't.
politics, you think? Should
Well,
never.
he was a good-ish chancellor. He is someone who'd be a very competent minister, but he can't connect with people.
I think it's really hard for them to pivot away from some of the messaging that they're trying. But here's the thing. The campaign is slightly confused at the moment. You've seen it from the policies that were announced today. And when they've made policy interventions, they've been quite technocratic. There isn't that kind of big vision piece there. I think one of the things that he might need to do is start thinking about how he talks about his time as Chancellor during the pandemic, because he did give, this huge spending commitment. He did do furlough.
It's amazing. You should spend £450 billion
and get no benefit
political
from it.
benefit.
Because obviously there's the whole Partygate situation with Boris, but he can distinguish himself from that a little bit. I think he's got to remind them that there have been testing times for the country and that 14 years have not been entirely bad. He's running on a campaign of his 18 months in government, and I don't think
He
that
should
works.
appoint you, Salma. That's what he should do for advice like that.
I'm very expensive, Tim.
There are worse ideas. He can't afford her. He can't afford her.